The chef had just killed the dish, and the billionaire's wife had one look left before the allergic reaction would do the rest. Maya untied her apron and walked into that kitchen carrying nothing but her late grandmother's recipe, one the head chef swore had no place on his menu. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment where in the world you're watching from. Let's go. Dubai, a city built on impossible promises, and inside one of its most exclusive dining rooms, a waiting game had already begun. Maya was 28 years old, a server who had spent 6 years learning that in this world, a name meant nothing unless the bill was paid. She had watched the head chef turn away a simple request because the word allergy sounded too much like inconvenience. She had seen the wife's face fall as the plate returned to the kitchen untouched. And she knew that in the time it would take for the car to pull around, the woman's airway could close for good. The question no one was asking was simple. If no one else would move, who would? Maya had been 6 years old when she first understood that food could be a weapon or a medicine. Her grandmother, Lola Rosa, had a kitchen the size of a closet in a town outside Manila. Every Sunday, the whole neighborhood came through the door carrying whatever they could afford. Some brought rice, some brought fish heads, some brought nothing at all. Lola Rosa never turned anyone away. She would take those scraps and turn them into something that made people close their eyes and forget the hunger. Maya watched her stir a pot with one hand while pressing a paste of ginger and garlic onto a neighbor's swollen joints with the other. The old woman believed that a dish could fix a broken heart faster than any doctor could fix a fever. She would say it in Tagalog, but the meaning landed the same in any language. Food is not for the chef, it is for the one who eats. Maya carried that lesson across the ocean when she landed in Dubai at 22. She had $300, a fake smile, and a work visa that tied her to a staffing agency that took a cut of everything she earned. Her first job was cleaning rooms at a 3-star hotel in Deira. She scrubbed toilets for 14 hours a day and sent home enough to keep her younger brother in school. Later, she moved to a coffee shop, then a chain restaurant, and finally, after 4 years of proving she could memorize an order without writing it down and smile through a migraine, she got hired at Al Masa, one of the most expensive restaurants in the city. Al Masa sat on the 36th floor of a glass tower on Sheikh Zayed Road, with floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over the marina. A meal for two could easily cost more than her monthly salary. The waitstaff moved in perfect choreography, all ironed shirts and low voices. Maya learned to read a table before she reached it. She could tell which guests wanted conversation and which wanted invisibility. She could spot a marriage falling apart from the way two people passed the bread basket. And she could tell when someone at the table had a food allergy by the way they scanned the menu like it might bite them. The head chef was a man named Alain Moreau. He was 51, French, and had worked in kitchens across Paris, London, and New York before being lured to Dubai with a salary that would make a banker blush. He had 2 Michelin stars to his name and a face that appeared on the covers of regional food magazines. His signature dish was a saffron-crusted sea bass served over a bed of crushed hazelnuts and a velouté made with cream, butter, and a secret blend of spices. It was the most ordered entree on the menu. It was also a death sentence for anyone with a severe nut or dairy allergy. And Alain Moreau had a strict policy: no substitutions, no modifications. The menu is the menu. If you do not like it, there are many other restaurants in Dubai. That policy was not written on the menu, but every server knew it. Maya had seen him send back plates untouched because a guest had asked for sauce on the side. She had heard him say that a customer who changes a dish is not a customer, but an insult. The other servers laughed nervously. Maya said nothing. She remembered Lola Rosa, who would have lost her mind at the idea of a guest leaving hungry because of pride. The couple who walked in at 8 o'clock that night did not look like people who were used to being refused. The man was tall, with silver at his temples and a watch that cost more than a studio apartment. His name was Rashid Al Maktoum, not a royal but close enough in the circles that mattered. He was the founder of a logistics empire that moved goods across 3 continents. His wife, Noor, was younger, elegant, and pale in a way that suggested she had not eaten properly in days. She wore a silk abaya the color of dove gray and carried a small medical pouch clutched in her hand like a lifeline. Maya was assigned to their table. She introduced herself softly, poured water, and asked if they had any questions about the menu. That was when Noor spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. She had severe allergies: tree nuts, shellfish, sesame, and dairy. Even trace amounts could trigger anaphylaxis. She had her epinephrine injector, but she tried to avoid using it because the rebound reaction could be worse. She asked if the chef could prepare the sea bass without the hazelnuts and with a dairy-free sauce. She asked politely, almost apologetically, as if she were the one causing a problem. Maya felt the weight of the request. She knew the rule. She also knew that Noor was not being difficult. She was trying to survive a dinner her husband had scheduled. Rashid put his hand over his wife's. He looked at Maya with tired eyes and said, "Please, just this once. We have tried 3 other restaurants this week. Each one said no." Maya nodded and said she would speak with the chef. She walked toward the kitchen, her heart pounding. She pushed through the swinging doors and found Elaine plating dishes with surgical precision. She explained the table's situation, the allergies, the request. She used the word anaphylaxis. She used the word fatal. Elaine did not look up from his plating. When she finished, he set down his tweezers, turned to face her, and said the 4 words that would change everything. "Tell them to leave." Maya stood frozen. She thought of Lola Rosa, of the hungry neighbors, of the belief that food was medicine. She thought of Noor's trembling hands and the medical pouch. She looked back through the round window in the kitchen door and saw the wife's eyes already shining with tears of disappointment as she reached for her husband's arm, ready to stand. The chef had turned away, already reaching for the next plate. And that was when Maya untied her apron. The apron was still falling when Maya reached for the cleanest pan on the rack. She did not look back. She pulled a fresh sea bass fillet from the cold drawer, set it on a sealed cutting board, and scrubbed her hands until the skin burned. She grabbed a knife that had just come from the dishwasher, not the shared block. She used a new bottle of olive oil, a clean spoon, a separate tray. She checked every label. No nuts, no sesame, no shellfish, no dairy. She moved with a speed that scared the line cooks. In her head, she heard Lola Rosa reciting the old rule from a kitchen that smelled of calamansi and garlic. If you cook for a life, you clean like a surgeon. Maya had never been to culinary school. She had no papers that said she could stand at that station. But she had 6 years of watching Elaine Morau plate his masterpieces, and she had a grandmother who had fed a whole barangay without ever poisoning a single soul. She seared the fish in olive oil, then finished it in a clean oven on parchment. She made a sauce from roasted red pepper, garlic, lemon, and a splash of vegetable stock. She did not touch the shared butter. She did not reach for the nut crust. She built a dish from memory and rage. At the table, Rashid had already placed his hand under Noor's elbow. She was standing now, her silk abaya trembling as she tried to hold herself together. The medical pouch was still clutched against her chest like a rosary. Rashid whispered something in Arabic, soft and broken. He was not angry, he was exhausted. They had tried 3 restaurants in 1 week. Each had smiled and said no. This was supposed to be the place. Al Masa advertised itself as a leader in luxury dining. The website promised personalized service. But Elaine Morau had a different policy. The menu is the menu. Allergies are not his problem. A junior server named Tariq saw Maya at the line and sprinted toward the manager's office. Samira Haddad, the floor manager, had been polishing a reservation screen when he burst in. She followed him to the kitchen pass, and the moment she saw Maya searing a fillet without permission, her face went pale. She knew the rules. She knew Elaine would explode. She also knew the couple at table 22 was worth more than the entire night's revenue. She did not know which fear to obey first. The kitchen doors swung open and Elaine Morau filled the frame. His whites were immaculate, his toque tilted at the angle of a man who had never once been questioned. He looked at Maya, then at the pan, then at the plate she had begun to build. His voice came low and cold, the way a surgeon might address a failing intern. "What do you think you are doing?" Maya did not turn. She arranged the fish, spooned the sauce, wiped the rim with a clean cloth. She said, "What you refuse to do." Elaine stepped toward her. He had fired people for less. Once, a line cook had swapped a garnish to accommodate a pregnant guest, and Elaine had made him clean the grease trap and then fired him at midnight. He believed a kitchen was not a democracy. It was a monarchy and he was king, but Maya was not a line cook. She was a server, invisible, replaceable, and she was not asking for permission. She lifted the plate and walked past him. He reached for her arm. She pulled free and the door swung shut behind her. In the dining room, the live piano music had stopped. The tables near the window had turned. As Maya crossed the floor, every guest could see the white apron gone, the bare arms, the careful plate balanced in her hands. She walked straight to table 22. Rashid looked at her as if she had risen from the dead. Noor's eyes were wet, but they widened when they saw the dish. "Madam, please sit. This is safe. I made it myself. No nuts, no sesame, no shellfish, no dairy. I used clean pans and separate utensils. My grandmother taught me how." "Please," Rashid hesitated. He had spent 30 years negotiating contracts, reading lawyers, trusting no one, but something in Maya's voice cut through all of it. He looked at his wife. Noor slowly lowered herself back into the chair. She stared at the fish as if it might still hide something dangerous. Maya did not rush her. She simply said, "I checked every label, twice." That was more than Elaine had done all night. From the next table, a British woman in a dark cocktail dress lifted her phone. She had been filming the empty dance floor for a story she would later post. Now she aimed her camera at the waitress standing over the billionaire's wife. The screen glowed red with the record light. This was the moment that would change everything, and she knew it before anyone else. Noor picked up her fork. She cut a small piece, the fish flacking cleanly under the pressure. She brought it to her lips. Rashid stopped breathing. Maya felt her own heart pause between beats. The whole room seemed to lean in. Noor chewed once, then twice, and closed her eyes. A tear slid down her cheek. She whispered, "It is delicious." She took another bite, then another. Rashid let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. He reached across the table and grabbed Maya's hand, not as a server, but as a person. The moment shattered when Samira arrived with 2 security guards. Their black suits cut through the candlelight. Samira's voice was tight. "Maya, step away from the table. You are terminated. You will leave the premises immediately." She said it as if Maya had committed a crime, not saved a life. The guards moved in. Rashid stood slowly, his chair scraping against the marble. His posture changed. The tired husband disappeared, replaced by something far more dangerous. "This woman just saved my wife's life. You will not remove her." Elaine appeared behind Samira, still wearing his whites, his face twisted with fury. He pointed a finger at Maya. She broke health code. She cooked without certification. She could have killed that guest. She is a liability. He called for the nearest guard to escort her out and said he would call the police. The words hung over the table like smoke. The guests at nearby tables stopped pretending not to listen. The British woman kept filming. Maya turned to face Elaine. For the first time since she had entered the kitchen, her voice trembled, not with fear, but with something older. She said, "I used a separate pan. I scrubbed the station. I checked every ingredient. You refused to serve a woman with a medical condition because you did not want to ruin your plate. You are not protecting the guest. You are protecting your vanity." She told them about Lola Rosa, not in detail, not yet, but enough. She said her grandmother had died in a restaurant because someone thought a little shrimp paste would not matter. She had watched an ambulance arrive too late. She had made a promise then. She would never let it happen in front of her again. The room went very still. Even the pianist had stopped. Rashid stared at Maya with new understanding. Then he did something no one at Al Masa had ever seen him do. He let go of his wife's hand, reached into his jacket, and said, "Do you know who owns this building?" Samira blinked. Elaine sneered, certain this was a bluff, but Rashid was already scrolling through his phone. He had not come to Al Masa as a tourist. He had come as a man with a score to settle. 5 years earlier, his first wife had died from anaphylaxis in a London restaurant that ignored her allergy. He had spent the years since buying into hospitality groups, quietly demanding allergy training, installing protocols, and firing managers who treated medical needs as preferences. Al Masa was one of his properties. Elaine Morrow did not know that. Samira did not know that. The corporate office did, but they had not told the floor staff. Tonight was supposed to be a quiet inspection. Instead, it had become proof that the industry still had blood on its hands. Rashid pressed a button and raised the phone to his ear. He spoke in Arabic, low and rapid. The words did not need translating. "Get me the board, now." Elaine's face shifted by degrees, confusion, then disbelief, then a white shock that drained the color from his cheeks. Samira's phone began to buzz. The guard stepped back, uncertain whose orders to follow. The restaurant manager's office door opened. The corporate liaison was walking fast, already out of breath. Maya did not know what was happening. She only saw the man whose wife she had served standing between her and the security guards like a wall. She still held the tray cloth in her hand from the pass. And somewhere in the quiet, the British woman's phone pinged with a notification. The video had finished uploading. The first comment arrived within seconds. Then the main door burst open. It was not the police. It was the health inspector. End of ACT2. The man in the doorway did not look like a hero. He was short, tired, and carried a scratched metal clipboard under one arm. But Raymai Farhat had spent 20 years inside restaurant kitchens, and he could smell a violation before he saw it. He walked past security as if they were curtains, past Elaine Morrow, past the frozen line cooks, and straight toward the cold station where Maya had cooked without permission. He asked only one question: who touched this station last? Maya raised her hand. Raymai looked at her, then at the plate on table 22, then back at the hand still holding the tray cloth. He did not arrest her. He did not shout. He pulled a pair of blue nitrile gloves from his belt and began swabbing the cutting board, the oil bottle, the knife, the sauce spoon. Elaine followed him, arms crossed, saying this was absurd, that the real crime was an untrained server using his kitchen without authorization. Raymai did not look up. He said, the real crime is what I am already finding. The first swab came back positive for sesame protein. It was on the rim of the shared sauce ladle. The second came back positive for peanut dust. It was on the pass shelf where plates were finished. The third, the most damning, was from the oil in the main fryer. It had been used for shellfish, for battered calamari, for everything, and it had not been changed in hours. Raymai wrote on his clipboard, then turned to Samira. This kitchen is closed as of now. The words sounded like a door slamming. Elaine erupted. He said Raymai had no right, that he was friends with people in the municipality, that he would have his job by morning. Raymai ignored him and stepped into the dry storage area. He opened a cabinet and found a container of hazelnut flour with a torn label stacked directly above a bin of gluten-free flour. Cross-contact waiting to happen. He pulled a small camera from his bag and photographed everything. The entire kitchen began to understand that this would not be a quiet warning. Rashid had not moved from his wife's side, nor was eating slowly, methodically, as if each bite were a victory. Her husband raised his phone again and said, "Get me the board. Now." He did not wait for an answer. He turned to Samira, whose face had gone the color of candle wax, and said 4 words that no one at Al Masa had expected. "I own this restaurant." The silence that followed was deeper than the moment the piano stopped. Samira blinked. Elaine let out a short, disbelieving laugh, but Rashid was already speaking to the corporate office, his voice low and furious. He said he had spent 5 years trying to make his hospitality group safe for people like his wife. He said he had sent memos, funded training, and paid consultants to fix exactly this problem. He said the reservation for table 22 had included a detailed allergen note, and then he said the part that made the line cooks look up. The note had been overridden by the kitchen at 7:46 that evening. Raymai walked back into the dining room and asked to see the reservation system. Samira's hands shook as she pulled it up on the host stand. There it was, in black and white. Table 22, party of 2, severe allergies to tree nuts, shellfish, sesame, and dairy. Medical documentation available. The system showed an acknowledgement. Then above it, a manual override from the kitchen. Reasons cited, menu integrity, time stamp, 7:46. Elaine had seen the note before service. He had known. He had refused anyway. The British woman at the next table let out a low, wounded sound. Her video had already been viewed 40,000 times. Now she raised her hand like a student in class and said, "I need everyone to hear something." Her name was Elena Voss. She was not a tourist. She was an investigative journalist and the founder of a food allergy safety network. Her son had died 9 years ago in a London restaurant because a chef had decided that a little peanut oil would not matter. She had spent every year since then trying to catch exactly this kind of arrogance on camera. And now, seated by accident next to the most honest act she had ever witnessed, she was weeping. The internet was already doing what the internet does. Within minutes, The clip of Maya crossing the floor, plate in hand, had spread from Dubai to London to Manila. The comments were vicious and beautiful. Someone named her the waitress who did not look away. Another wrote, "I have never turned back once I started walking. I have been fired for doing the right thing." The hashtag Maya the Line began climbing. Newsrooms in 3 countries flagged the footage. But inside Al Masa, the real story was still opening its jaws. Raymai continued his inspection. He walked to the tall stainless steel shelves near the hot line and reached behind a stack of sheet pans. What he found there would later be described in the municipality's report as evidence of systemic failure. A plastic container labeled mayonnaise was actually house-made aioli. It contained raw egg. It had been sitting out of temperature for 4 hours. Next to it, a squeeze bottle marked tamarind turned out to be a reduction made with shrimp paste. A third bottle had no label at all. It smelled of toasted almonds. For anyone with a shellfish or nut allergy, that shelf was a loaded weapon, and it was all within arm's reach of the pass. Then Raymai opened the narrow drawer beneath the main counter. Inside was the allergy log. Every high-end kitchen in Dubai was required to keep one. It was supposed to list every guest allergy, the staff member notified, the measures taken, and the signature of the chef on duty. Raymai ran a gloved finger down the pages. They were blank, every single one. Not a single allergy had been logged in the 6 months since Al Masa opened. Samira tried to say they kept a digital record instead. Raymai looked at the system. There was nothing, no training certificates, no updated menu notes, no cleaning logs for allergen segregation. The restaurant was a fortress of paper promises and empty binders. Elaine tried a different move. He squared his shoulders and said he would call the police about the waitress. He used Maya's name like a curse. He said she had entered a restricted kitchen without authorization, violated health and safety, and potentially contaminated a guest's meal. Raymai looked at him for a long time, then said, "She used clean pans. She used separate utensils. She checked every label." Your kitchen's problem is not her. The problem is that a woman with 4 life-threatening allergies was safer being served by an untrained server than by your entire fine dining team. Rashid finally stepped forward. He had not raised his voice once. He did not need to. He pulled a small document from his jacket and handed it to the corporate liaison who had arrived out of breath. The document confirmed that Rashid Al Maktoum was the beneficial owner of the hospitality group through a shell company no one at the restaurant had ever heard of. The liaison turned pale. Rashid said, "You will suspend the chef. You will cooperate with the health inspector, and you will issue a public apology to my wife." The liaison nodded so fast his glasses slipped, but it was Noor who delivered the next turn. She set down her fork and looked at Maya with an expression that was both gentle and scorching. She said, "I am an immunologist. I have spent 12 years treating patients with food allergies. I knew before I came here that the reservation note might be ignored. I have seen it in 5 countries. She reached into her medical pouch and pulled out a small plastic strip, a rapid allergen test. She had been carrying it for exactly this purpose. She tore open the packet, dipped the strip into the sauce on her plate, and waited. The strip stayed white. No nuts, no dairy, no shellfish, no sesame. Maya had done what no one else in that kitchen had been willing to do. And now the proof was on the table. The health inspector saw the test result and added it to his report. He told Elaine that the kitchen would remain closed pending a full investigation and that he would be recommending charges for reckless endangerment. He used those words specifically, reckless endangerment. Elaine's face lost every trace of arrogance. He looked around the room as if seeking an ally, but the line cooks were staring at the floor, the servers had gathered near the host's stand, and Samira was already on the phone with a lawyer. The only person who looked at him with anything close to pity was Maya, and even she would not speak. Then the main door opened again. This time it was not one person, it was a cluster of reporters. They had seen the video, they had found the address. They were pushing against the velvet rope, calling Maya's name, asking if the chef had really refused to serve a dying woman. The flashes whitened the entrance. Elena Voss stepped into the doorway and raised her hand. She said, "Do not let them spin this. I have the whole interaction on camera." The restaurant staff knew. The chef overrode the note. This was not an accident, it was a choice. The restaurant lights dimmed once, just a flicker, as if the building itself had flinched. Raymai took a final note on his clipboard. He told Maya she was free to go. He told Rashid and Noor they could file witness statements in the morning. He told Elaine not to leave the country. Then he turned and walked toward the back office to write the report that would go public by sunrise. And somewhere in the chaos, Maya slipped out the side door into the service corridor. Her apron was still on the kitchen floor. Her shoes echoed against the concrete. She thought about Lola Rosa, about the promise she had made as a girl. She thought about the wife who had eaten without fear for the first time in years. She thought about the newspaper headlines being typed in real time, but she did not yet know the half of it. She did not know that the video had already reached her brother in Manila. She did not know that Elaine's lawyers were already drafting a counter-narrative. And she did not know that by morning her name would be a national argument, because saving a life was not the end of the story. It was the beginning of a war. The service corridor was cold and silent, but Maya could still hear the dining room through the walls. The muffled roar of reporters, the clatter of security boots, the distant voice of Rachel, "No, Noor." She pressed her back against the concrete and tried to breathe. Her phone was already vibrating. She pulled it out with shaking hands. The screen showed her younger brother Marco calling from Manila. She answered, and before she could speak, he was crying. He said, I saw the video. Everyone here has seen it. Lola would be so proud of you." Then he said something that made her knees give way. "They are already writing about you in the Filipino papers, but they are also writing that the chef says you tried to poison the guest." Maya closed her eyes. Of course, that was how this would go. She was a waitress with no culinary license. He was a two-star chef with a reputation and a legal team. The truth would not matter unless someone with power decided it did. She went home to her small apartment in Satwa, changed out of the uniform and sat on the floor. She did not sleep. The video had crossed 2 million views. The comments were split between wonder and accusation. Some said she was a hero. Others said she was reckless, untrained, a liability. The restaurant group released a statement before dawn. It called the incident deeply concerning and said that the employee in question had violated kitchen access policy and was no longer on the schedule. It said the group was cooperating with authorities. It did not say that the owner of the group had watched it all happen from the table. Maya read the statement 4 times. She was not surprised. In Dubai, a waitress was replaceable. A Michelin-starred chef was an asset. She had done the right thing, and she was about to be burned for it. Then at 8 o'clock that morning, Raymai Farhat walked out of Al Masa with his report in hand. He did not speak to the cameras assembled outside. He drove directly to the municipality and filed a formal complaint of reckless endangerment against the kitchen. He attached photographs. He attached the blank allergy log. He attached the reservation note with the override time stamp. He attached the allergen test strip from Noor's plate. That strip was the anchor. It proved that Maya's dish was clean, while the kitchen around it was a minefield. Rashid called his own press conference at 10. He stood in a hotel ballroom with Noor at his side and read from a prepared statement. He confirmed that he was the beneficial owner of the hospitality group. He confirmed that the table had submitted a detailed allergy note. He confirmed that the note was overridden by the head chef. He said the group had failed, not because of a waitress who broke protocol, but because of a chef who enforced a policy of contempt. Then he did something no one expected. He asked Maya to join him on stage. Maya did not want to go. She watched the press conference on her phone, still on the floor in Satwa, but a car was already outside. Samira had given them her address. When she stepped into the ballroom in a borrowed blazer, the cameras flashed so hard she almost turned around. Rashid said, "This woman did not just save my wife. She showed us what hospitality was supposed to be." He announced that Maya would not be terminated. She would be offered a new position. The words hung in the air like a bell. The new position was not what she expected. Rashid wanted her to lead an allergy safety training program across all 31 restaurants in his group. She would not be a chef. She would be something more. She would be the person who makes sure no one ever has to beg for a safe meal again. Maya looked at Noor, who smiled and gave a small nod. She thought of Lola Rosa, who had died because a cook in Manila thought a little shrimp paste would not matter. She had watched that ambulance arrive too late. She had made a promise to never let it happen again. This was the promise, taking shape in a hotel ballroom with cameras rolling. But the war was not over. Elaine Morrow had not gone quietly. His lawyers filed a defamation suit against Elena Voss, claiming the video was edited to destroy his reputation. They leaked texts from a server who claimed Maya had used contaminated oil. The story lurched in two directions at once. Maya was a hero in the morning and a fraud by afternoon. The internet fought itself in real time. Then Raimi released his full report. The municipality published it online. It was 52 pages long. It found 31 critical violations. The shared oil in the fryer tested positive for peanut and shellfish protein. The squeeze bottle labeled tamarind contained shrimp paste. The tall shelves held hazelnut flour above gluten-free flour. The allergy log was blank. The reservation override had been performed with the code belonging to Chef Elaine Morrow. The report ended with a single sentence. Had the guest consumed the chef's original preparation, the exposure would likely have been fatal. That sentence broke the counter-narrative. The defamation suit was dropped within 48 hours. Elaine was summoned before the municipality, and his kitchen certification was suspended pending review. Al Masa was shut down indefinitely. The corporate liaison was fired. Samira resigned. The group launched a full audit of every restaurant under Rashid's control, and Maya was asked to lead the corrective training alongside a team of food safety experts. Maya said yes, but with conditions. Every server, line cook, and chef had to complete hands-on allergen training. No chef could override a guest allergy note without a written medical review. Every kitchen had to carry rapid allergen test strips, and any staff member who refused to accommodate a documented allergy would be dismissed, no matter how many stars they carried. Rashid agreed without hesitation. 3 months later, Maya stood in a training kitchen in the basement of a hotel on the Palm. The class was full. 25 chefs in white uniforms, 20 servers in black aprons, all watching her with varying degrees of resistance. She held up a small blue test strip. She said, "This is not to catch you. It is to tell the guest the truth before their throat swells shut." Then she taught them how to read labels, how to separate oils, how to clean a station like a surgeon. She used her grandmother's voice, the same voice that had said food is not for the chef, it is for the one who eats. Noor attended every session. She sat in the back, not as the owner's wife, but as a medical instructor. She taught the staff to recognize anaphylaxis, to call emergency services without delay, to never assume a guest is exaggerating. She told them about the 12 patients she had lost across her career, each one a person who had been assured the food was safe. By the end of the first month, the group had trained over 400 employees. Other hospitality companies began calling. Maya was asked to speak at a food safety summit in Singapore. She said no, she was not ready. Noor said, "You already did the hard part. You walked across that dining room." The final surprise came not from Dubai, but from Manila. A woman named Corazon had seen the video online and recognized Maya's face. She wrote to the foundation. She said she had been with Lola Rosa the night she died. She said she had been too ashamed to speak for years. She said Lola Rosa had not died because a cook had ignored her allergy notice. She had died because the cook refused to believe a woman from the province could have a food allergy at all. He had called it drama. He had used the same word Elaine used, vanity. The truth had been buried by the restaurant owner, who later sold the business and left the country. Maya read that message on the balcony of her new apartment. She thought about the old woman who had taught her to cook with love and accommodate every guest. She thought about the promise she had made as a girl, watching the ambulance pull away in the rain. Then she called her brother and said, "We are going to tell her story." And so the waitress who had been forgotten became the voice of those who had been silenced. She did not want fame. She did not want revenge. She wanted every kitchen to understand that no plate is worth a life. She wanted the next woman with a medical pouch and trembling hands to be treated with dignity, not dismissal. And she wanted Elaine Morrow to know that his legend had ended not with 2 stars, but with one act of courage from a server who refused to look away. The full reckoning was still unfolding. The municipality had scheduled a hearing. The group had retained lawyers. Elena Voss had published a 12,000-word investigation. But as Maya stood in that training kitchen, teaching a room full of chefs how to read a label, she knew the most important part had already happened. She had stopped waiting for permission. Now the question was no longer whether she would be allowed to save a life. The question was how many more lives would be saved because one waitress had remembered her grandmother and walked toward the fire. The truth is, this story was never only about one restaurant. Al-Masa was not an exception. It was a photograph of a system that has treated allergy as inconvenience and accommodation as weakness. Across the world, people with severe food allergies are still told no, still handed a menu and asked to choose something else, still told that a chef's vision matters more than their survival. Maya did not end that system. She exposed it. And exposure is the first thing every broken machine fears. In the months after the video spread, restaurants across Dubai, London, and New York began posting new allergy statements. Some of them were genuine, many of them were not. But the question had been planted. If a waitress with no formal culinary training could prepare a safe meal under pressure, what excuse did a two-star kitchen have? Why did it take an act of disobedience to make basic safety visible? Nor helped answer that question during the summit in Singapore that Maya eventually agreed to attend. She stood on the stage not as a survivor but as a physician, and she said something that would be quoted in medical journals. An allergic reaction is not a preference. It is a physiological event. Every restaurant that ignores it is choosing risk over care. Maya then took the microphone and said, "You do not need a Michelin star to know the difference. You need only respect your guest." She never sought recognition. The awards, the interviews, the training programs all came later. But when it mattered most, she did not wait for someone in authority to tell her it was acceptable to help. She moved. And that single movement is the only thing no one can legislate away. Perhaps that is the lingering question of this story. Not whether Maya was right, because she was, but whether you would have done the same. Would you have walked into the kitchen when everyone else looked away? Would you have risked your job, your safety, your future, for a stranger who had already been told no? Most people believe they would. The record says otherwise. So if this story stayed with you, let it not stay quietly. Tell someone who works in hospitality that allergy training matters. Tell someone with an allergy that their fear is not an inconvenience. And if you believe that one person can still change the culture of an industry, then like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let the algorithm know that decency and expertise are not opposites. They are the same thing. The waitress who refuted a chef with a fish and a memory proved that finally, that is enough. The story ends where all true stories do, not in applause, but in the small decisions of everyone who watched.